They reached the crash site at dawn on the sixth day. The pod looked smaller than Taemin remembered, half buried in the purple soil. Around it, the ground was trampled by many Vora feet. "They've been here," Sunmi whispered. "Many times." The group hid in a nearby cave while Taemin and Hajun finalized their plan. Using parts from both human ships and Lumi crystal technology, they had built a neural disruptor much stronger than before. But to power it properly, they needed the energy field at the planet's heart, directly beneath the crash site. "The disruptor must be placed at the center," Taemin explained, "and activated from there, but the Vora will sense us digging. Someone must lead them away." "I will," Jiho volunteered, skin flashing brave blues and greens. Before they could begin, a sound filled the air, a deep rhythmic humming. Over the ridge came the largest group of Vora they had ever seen. Dozens moved as one, their bioluminescent patterns synchronized into a single glowing entity. "They've evolved further," Taemin said. "Their connection is stronger now." There was no time for their original plan. They had to act immediately. Taemin reached the pod first, pulling himself inside despite his malfunctioning legs. He disabled the distress beacon permanently, then grabbed the disruptor device. When he emerged, the Vora had surrounded their position. "Run!" Taemin shouted to the others. "I'll draw them away." Using the last power reserves in his legs, Taemin sprinted toward a narrow canyon. The Vora followed, ignoring the Lumi completely. It confirmed what Taemin had suspected. They wanted him, the outsider, the threat to their evolution. At the canyon's end, Taemin found what he needed, a crack in the ground that glowed with the same energy as the Lumi crystals. He could feel the power of the planet's core. As the Vora closed in, Taemin connected the disruptor to his neural interface one last time. The pain was immediate and intense, but he kept working. His legs sparked dangerously as he channeled their remaining power into the device. The lead Vora stepped forward, its massive form looming over Taemin. Instead of attacking, it reached out with a clawed limb, almost touching Taemin's face. In that moment, Taemin felt something unexpected. A brief connection to the Vora's mind. Not hatred, but fear. Fear of being caged, fear of being changed. "I understand," Taemin whispered, "but you can't go back to what you were." He activated the disruptor. A wave of energy exploded outward, channeled through the planet's natural fields. Taemin's legs failed completely, circuits fried beyond repair. He collapsed as the energy wave spread across the entire planet. The Vora scattered, their synchronized patterns breaking into individual displays. The hive mind was severed. Each Vora was now alone in its mind for the first time in countless generations. Hours later, the Lumi found Taemin. He couldn't walk, his robotic legs destroyed by the power surge. "We won," he told them weakly. "But I can't move anymore." Sunmi knelt beside him. "We offer another way," she said, gesturing to a pool of bioluminescent liquid that the other Lumi had brought with them. "Become part of planet, part of us." Taemin looked at the strange liquid. "What will happen?" "New legs," Sunmi explained. "Not metal, living, like ours but stronger. You will change but still be you." 3 months later, a human rescue ship arrived, following the last transmitted coordinates of the Horizon's escape pod. What they found astonished them. A settlement stood near the crash site, a place where Lumi and individual Vora lived together. And greeting them was a human with legs that glowed with bioluminescent patterns, changing color as he moved. "My name is Taemin," he said to the shocked rescue team. "Welcome to our world." His legs, partly biological now, grown from Lumi genetic material, carried him smoothly as he showed the humans around. He explained how the Vora, freed from their hive mind, had developed individual personalities. Some were still dangerous, but others sought peace. "Will you return with us to Earth?" the rescue captain asked. Taemin's legs glowed a thoughtful blue. "This is my home now. But we would like to establish official contact. There's so much your scientists could learn here." As night fell, Taemin stood with Hajun and Jiho watching the human ship's lights. His legs glowed with the same patterns as his friends. He was neither fully human nor Lumi, but something new. "What will you teach them first?" Jiho asked. Taimin smiled. That sometimes to survive we must adapt, and in adapting we find new strength. And outside, the Vora suddenly pulled back. Taimin looked down at his legs. The neural interface that connected his nervous system to the robotic limbs was disrupting something in the Vora, perhaps their hive mind connection. It wasn't much, but it was something, a potential weakness. As more Vora surrounded the ship, Taimin began to form a plan. Taimin spent 3 days in the crashed ship, studying Dr. Park's logs while the Vora circled outside. Each time they approached too closely, he would press his leg's neural interface against the hull. The painful feedback drove them back temporarily. On the 4th day, Taimin heard a new sound, high-pitched calls that didn't belong to the Vora. He peered through a cracked viewport and saw flashes of color in the trees. The Lumi had tracked him down. Jiho and 5 others created a distraction, drawing the Vora away long enough for Taimin to escape. They fled through tunnels that ran beneath the forest floor, eventually emerging miles away at a different Lumi settlement built inside. A massive hollow tree. "You shouldn't have come," Taimin told Jiho when they were safe. "Too dangerous." Jiho's skin flashed determined patterns. "You are friend. We help friends." Taimin showed the data tablet he'd taken from Dr. Park's ship to the Lumi elders. The oldest among them, Jae-sung, listened carefully as Taimin explained what he had learned. "The Vora were once travelers among stars," Taimin said. "They attacked other worlds. Someone trapped them here, changed their bodies. The Lumi were created to watch over them." Jae-sung's aged skin rippled with slow, deep blue patterns. "Old stories speak of star builders who gave us purpose. We thought they were just tales." "The system keeping the Vora contained is breaking down," Taimin continued. "Dr. Park tried to fix it but failed. Now the Vora are changing, becoming more like what they once were." The Lumi Council debated through the night, their skin flashing in complex arguments. By morning they had reached a decision. "We will help you repair the system," Jae-sung told Taimin, "but we need your knowledge of machines." For the next week, Taimin worked with Ha-jun, a young Lumi engineer. Together, they studied the old ship's data about the containment technology. The system used a network of crystal towers to generate a field that limited the Vora's hive mind capabilities. "The field is weak now," Ha-jun explained, showing Taimin a map. "Many towers have failed over time." Taimin examined his robotic legs. "My neural interface disrupts their connection. If we could build something similar but stronger..." They began constructing devices using parts from the ship, combined with Lumi crystal technology. Taimin's mechanical expertise merged with the Lumi's knowledge of the planet's unique energy. They created small disruptors that could temporarily break the Vora's mental link when placed near them. "Not strong enough," Taimin said after testing. "We need something bigger." Ha-jun suggested using the largest crystal formation located beneath the original Lumi village, the one Taimin had first visited. The village had been abandoned since the Vora attack, but the crystals remained. The journey back was dangerous. Vora patrols had increased across the forest. The group moved slowly, using Taimin's disruptors to create safe paths when needed. When they finally reached the village, they found it destroyed. The homes were smashed, gardens trampled, but the Vora were gone, hunting elsewhere. They searched. "For you?" Jiho said softly. Taimin felt a wave of guilt. How many Lumi had died because of him, because he had crashed on their world? The group descended to the crystal cave beneath the village. The main formation rose from the floor like a massive tree made of blue light. Taimin and Ha-jun began adapting their disruptor design to work with it. 3 days into their work, the alarm came. Vora had found them. "Keep working," Sunmi urged. "We will hold them back." The Lumi used light barriers and small disruptors, but the Vora kept coming, more than ever before. They broke through the outer defenses as night fell. Taimin rushed to help, his leg's neural interface causing pain to any Vora that came too close. During the chaos, he noticed something strange. The Vora weren't trying to kill him anymore. They were attempting to capture him. A massive Vora leader cornered Taimin against a cliff wall. As it approached, Taimin felt the neural interface in his legs burning with feedback. The creature hesitated, shaking its armored head as if in pain. In that moment, Taimin understood. The interface wasn't just disrupting their communication, it was hurting them, breaking their shared consciousness. Each Vora was used to being part of a greater mind. Isolation caused them pain. Taimin dodged past the confused Vora and ran back to the crystal cave. "I know how to stop them," he shouted to Harjun. "We need to amplify my leg's neural frequency through the crystal." They worked frantically, connecting Taimin's neural interface directly to their half-finished device. When the Vora broke into the cave, Taimin activated the system. A wave of energy pulsed outward. Every Vora in range froze, their bioluminescent patterns flickering chaotically. Then, one by one, they retreated, moving like confused individuals rather than parts of a coordinated force. "It worked," Harjun whispered, skin flashing with amazement, but the victory was temporary. The device burned out after one use, and Taimin's legs were damaged by the power surge. They needed something more permanent, a way to break the Vora hive mind completely. "I have an idea," Taimin said, looking at the remains of their device, "but we'll need to go to where it all began, to the center of the containment system." The journey to the center took 5 days. Taimin's robotic legs worked poorly after the power surge. Often, Harjun and Jiho had to help him walk. Their small group moved carefully, avoiding Vora patrols that still searched the forest. Dr. Park's data showed the containment system's heart lay beneath the crash site of Taimin's escape pod. The ancient builders had placed their control center there, at the highest point on the planet. They chose that spot for a reason, Taimin explained to the others as they rested. The electromagnetic fields are strongest there. The builders use those fields to power the whole system. On the 4th night, Harjun found something troubling in their scanner readings. "See your distress beacon," he said, showing Taimin the data. "It still works, but the signal is changing, growing stronger." Taimin examined the readings and frowned. The beacon is drawing power from the planet's fields, and that energy is attracting the Vora. The group fell silent. If the beacon brought more Vora to the crash site, their mission would fail. But if Taimin disabled it, he might lose his only chance of rescue. "Choose," Harjun said simply. "Possible rescue or our survival." Taimin didn't hesitate. "We disable the beacon." Taimin took it carefully. The crystal pulsed with energy he could feel through his fingers. Using his tools, he tried to connect it to his leg's power system. The alien watched intently, occasionally offering small adjustments with its own strange tools. After an hour of work, Taimin closed the panel and activated the system. His legs hummed with new energy. The power reading jumped to 90%. "It works," he exclaimed. The alien stepped back, skin flashing bright patterns of blue and purple. They seemed pleased or excited. Taimin stood, his movements smoother than they had been since the crash. He bowed deeply to the aliens, trying to show gratitude. The older alien touched his arm and pointed to a path leading away from the crystal field. The meaning was clear. "Follow us." As the sun began to set, Taimin walked with the small aliens through the forest. They kept to hidden paths that avoided the territories of the stalkers. After an hour, they reached a settlement built into the side of a cliff. Dozens more aliens emerged from homes carved into the rock. Their skin patterns flashed in waves of color as they saw Taimin. Children hid behind adults. Some pointed at his metal legs. The leader brought forward a small device that pulsed with the same energy as the crystals. It made sounds that shifted, in tone and pitch. Taimin realized it was some kind of translator, primitive but similar in concept to those used by humans for new language encounters. He pointed to himself. "Taimin," he said clearly. The leader touched its chest. Through the device came a sound. "Jiho." That night, under 2 strange moons, Taimin sat with Jiho and the elder, who called herself Sunmi. Using the crude translator and many gestures, they began to share their first words. The aliens called themselves the Lumi, and they lived in constant fear of the 6-legged predators, which they named the Vora. 2 weeks passed. Taimin lived among the Lumi in their cliff village. They gave him a small cave home with a view of the valley. Each day he learned more of their simple language through the translation device, which he had improved using parts from his broken scanner. The Lumi were peaceful. They gathered crystals and grew strange fruits in hidden gardens. Their technology was basic but clever, using the planet's natural energy in ways Taimin had never seen before. In return for their help, Taimin fixed things. His mechanical skills amazed the Lumi. He repaired their tools and built simple machines to help with their daily work. The children especially loved to watch him work on his robotic legs, their skin flashing bright patterns of wonder when he demonstrated how the joints moved. But danger was never far away. The Vora, those six-legged predators, grew bolder. Twice, they attacked Lumi gathering parties. 3 Lumi had not returned. On this morning, Sunmi, the elder, visited Taimin's cave. Her skin patterns showed worry, deep blues with flashes of red. "They hunt you now," she said through the translator. "The Vora, they sense difference." Taimin frowned. "How do you know?" "Scouts saw them. They follow your old tracks. From crashed metal home to here. They never did this before, never hunted with purpose." This troubled Taimin. Animals didn't track old scents for weeks unless taught to do so. "The Vora, are they just animals?" Sunmi's skin darkened. "Not animals, more. They share one mind. When you hurt one, others know. When one learns, all learn." That night, Taimin couldn't sleep. He sat at the entrance of his cave watching the forest below. In the darkness he saw them, the glowing patterns of Vora moving together. 5, then 7, then 12. More than he had ever seen in one group. They were coming toward the village. Taimin ran to warn the others. The Lumi had defenses, crystal-powered light walls that the Vora usually avoided. But there were too many this time. The lights wouldn't hold them all back. "We must leave," Jiho said, gathering the children. "Go to the high caves until they pass." But Taimin knew the Vora wouldn't just pass. They were hunting him specifically. As long as he stayed with the Lumi, they would be in danger. "I must go," he told Jiho. "Lead them away from your people." Jiho's skin flashed in protest, but Taimin had made up his mind. He collected his few tools and the spare power crystals the Lumi had given him. He left before dawn, taking a path that led deep into the forest, away from the Lumi's evacuation route. His robotic legs, now fully repaired and enhanced with Lumi crystal technology, carried him swiftly through the difficult terrain. By midday, Taimin knew he was being followed. He caught glimpses of the Vora moving parallel to his path, their hunting strategy too coordinated for mere animals. They were herding him, forcing him toward a dead end, a cliff face that would be impossible to climb. Taimin changed direction, cutting through a dense patch of blue-leafed plants. The leaves released a strong scent when crushed, which he hoped would mask his trail. It didn't work. The Vora adjusted their course immediately. Whatever sense they used to track him, it wasn't just smell. As the second sun began to set, Taimin found himself in a part of the forest he hadn't seen before. The trees here were different, darker with strange metal-like veins running through their trunks. The ground sloped downward into a ravine filled with mist. Taimin hesitated at the edge. Behind him he heard the Vora approaching. He had no choice. He carefully made his way down into the mist. The ravine bottom was covered in twisted metal and glass, ruins of something artificial. Taimin moved forward slowly, his legs splashing through shallow pools of glowing liquid. Then he saw it, half buried in the side of the ravine, the unmistakable shape of a human ship. Much older and smaller than the horizon, but definitely human-made. "I'm not the first," he whispered. The ship's airlock was partially open. Taimin squeezed through the gap, closing it behind him, just as the first Vora reached the ravine edge. Inside, emergency lights still glowed faintly. The ship had power even after what must have been decades. Taimin found the bridge. Most systems were dead, but a data terminal still functioned. He activated it, and a woman's face appeared on the cracked screen. "Log entry 47, Dr. Yeonjae Park," she said, her voice distorted. "If anyone finds this, you must understand what this planet really is. It's not natural. It's a constructed ecosystem, a prison." Taimin watched in shock as Dr. Park explained her discoveries. The Vora were not native to this world. They had once been a spacefaring species who became too dangerous to others. Some ancient civilization had contained them here, altering their bodies but not their intelligence. The containment systems are failing, Dr. Park continued. The Vora are evolving beyond their designed limitations. My team tried to repair the system, but the Vora found us. I'm the last one left. The recording ended. Taemin sat in silence, trying to process this information. A heavy thud against the ship's hull broke his thoughts. The Vora had found him. They were trying to get in. Taemin checked the ship for weapons but found nothing useful. As he moved through the abandoned corridors, he noticed something strange. When he got close to the hull where the Vora were pressing against it, his leg's neural interface sparked painfully. The escape pod hurtled through the atmosphere, trailing fire and smoke. Inside, Taemin gripped the safety harness as alarms blared. The research vessel Horizon had broken apart minutes earlier, leaving him the only survivor. Impact came with a deafening crash. Metal twisted and systems failed. Taemin's head slammed against the control panel, and darkness took him. Hours later, he woke to the steady drip of coolant and the smell of burnt circuitry. Blood had dried on his forehead, and his mouth tasted like metal. The pod lay tilted, at an angle, half buried in soft purple soil. "Status report," Taemin croaked. His throat felt raw from breathing in smoke. The pod's AI responded with a broken voice. "Life support. Failing. Communications offline. Location unknown." Taemin tried to stand but fell back with a gasp. His legs, not flesh and bone but advanced robotic prosthetics, had been damaged in the crash. The right knee sparked dangerously, and diagnostic lights flashed red along the metal calf. He had lost his real legs 5 years ago in a mining accident. The company had fitted him with military-grade replacements as compensation, turning him into one of the best mechanics in the fleet. Now those same legs might be the difference between life and death on this alien world. The small viewport showed an alien landscape bathed in the light of 2 setting suns. Massive purple trees swayed in the distance, their trunks thick as buildings. The sky had a greenish tint that made Taemin uneasy. He pulled himself to the emergency supply locker and retrieved the basic repair kit. Working carefully, he opened the access panel on his right leg and assessed the damage. "Not good," he muttered. The main power coupling was cracked, and 3 servo motors had been knocked out of alignment. He could fix it, but he needed better tools. Taemin dragged himself to the pod's small engineering bay. He converted the space into a makeshift workshop, laying out his tools on a fold-down table. For 6 hours straight he worked on his legs, stopping only when his hands shook too much to continue. The pod's scanner beeped suddenly. Taemin looked up from his work. The screen showed atmospheric readings, oxygen levels slightly higher than Earth normal, no detected toxins, temperature dropping with nightfall. But that wasn't what had triggered the alert. The scanner had detected movement, large life forms circling the crash site. Taemin pulled himself to the viewport. Night had fallen completely now, but he could see strange lights moving in the darkness. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed and shifted, revealing the outline of something massive. 6 legs, a long armored body, a head that seemed too large with multiple eyes that glowed with an intelligent light. The creature moved with purpose, circling the pod, studying it. This was no mindless animal. It was assessing, analyzing, hunting. Taemin shrank back from the viewport. His legs were still only partly repaired. He had no weapons beyond a standard utility laser, designed for cutting metal, not fighting. The creature outside made a sound, a low vibrating hum that Taemin felt in his chest more than heard. In response, more lights appeared in the darkness, more creatures joining the first. "I need to finish repairs," Taemin whispered to himself. "Need to be able to run." He worked through the night, ignoring hunger and thirst. Occasionally, something would bump against the pod, testing its strength. The creatures never left. They waited, patient predators who had found interesting prey. By morning, Taemin had restored basic function to both legs. The right one still moved stiffly, and power efficiency was down by 30%, but he could walk, maybe even run if needed. The scanner showed the creatures had withdrawn with the dawn, but they hadn't gone far. They waited in the shadows of the giant purple trees. Taemin took inventory of his supplies, 3 days of emergency rations, a water purifier, basic tools, the utility laser, and a portable scanner. Not much to survive on an alien world. He packed everything into a salvage storage bag and slung it over his shoulder. The distress beacon was damaged, but still functional. He set it to broadcast on all emergency channels, knowing help might be months or years away if it came at all. Outside the pod, the alien soil crunched under his robotic feet. The air smelled strange, sweet and metallic at once. In the distance, flying creatures with multiple wings circled above the purple forest. Taemin took a deep breath and checked his leg diagnostics one last time. Mobility, 73%. Power reserves, 62%. Neural interface, stable. Not great, but it would have to do. He needed to find shelter, water, and something he could use as a power source before his legs failed completely. As Taemin took his first steps into the alien landscape, he felt eyes watching from the forest edge. The hunt had begun. Remember to cite properly if you use web search results in your answer. 3 days passed since the crash. Taemin had made a small camp in a cave near a stream. His robotic legs worried him. The power cells were down to 40% and he had found no way to recharge them. If they failed completely, he would be helpless on this strange world. The planet itself was beautiful but dangerous. Massive purple trees towered overhead, their branches filled with flying creatures that sang at dawn. The ground was covered in blue moss that glowed faintly at night. Small animals with too many legs scurried away whenever Taemin approached. Worst of all, the large six-legged predators, Taemin called them stalkers, had not given up. Each night, he saw their bioluminescent patterns moving through the forest, drawing closer to his cave. On the morning of the 4th day, Taemin noticed his scanner picking up unusual energy readings. The planet had strong electromagnetic fields that interfered with his equipment, but these readings suggested something else, a potential power source. Worth investigating, he said to himself, packing his few tools. The readings came from a valley about 3 miles east. The journey was difficult. Taemin's right leg still moved stiffly, making steep slopes challenging. By midday, he reached a ridge overlooking the valley. Below, strange crystal formations jutted from the ground, pulsing with blue light. Those might work, Taemin whispered, excitement building. If he could adapt one of those crystals to power his legs, he might survive long enough for rescue. As he made his way down, movement caught his eye. Small figures darted between the crystals. Taemin froze, then slowly crouched behind a rock. The creatures were bipedal like humans, but smaller, about 4 feet tall. Their skin was pale and slightly translucent, with glowing patterns that shifted colors as they moved. They seemed to be harvesting smaller crystals, placing them in woven baskets. Taemin watched, fascinated. Intelligent alien life. His mission as a mechanic on the horizon had been to help build research outposts, not to make first contact. He was not trained for this. Suddenly, one of the creatures looked up, pointing directly at Taemin's hiding place. He had been spotted. The aliens made quick, high-pitched sounds to each other. Some fled, but 3 moved toward him, holding crystal-tipped spears. Taemin slowly stood, hands raised to show he carried no weapons. "I mean no harm," he said, knowing they couldn't understand. The aliens stopped, their skin patterns flashing. Rapidly, reds and yellows that Taemin guessed meant alarm or warning. The leader jabbed his spear forward, indicating Taemin should move away from their crystal field. Instead, Taemin slowly sat on the ground, making himself appear smaller. He pointed to his robotic legs, then to the crystals, trying to communicate his need. The aliens conferred, their skin changing to cooler blues and greens. Finally, the leader approached cautiously. Its large eyes studied Taemin's metal legs with obvious curiosity. Taemin carefully opened the access panel on his right leg, showing the power cell inside. Then he pointed again to the crystals. The alien skin flashed with blue light in what seemed like understanding. It turned and called to the others. An older alien approached, carrying a small bag. This one's skin had deeper, more complex patterns. The older alien knelt beside Taemin and examined his legs more closely. It touched the metal with slender fingers, trilling softly. Then it reached into its bag and pulled out a crystal smaller than Tamin's palm.